Maisie is the newest chromatic brawler coming to the game. She is the third and final member of the Star Park Cinema trio alongside Buster and Fang. Now she is the safety assistant inside the theater when Fang and Buster are getting into trouble, and she has to act like she's their big sister and does what she can to protect them. She uses some sort of fire extinguisher cannon on her arm to attack enemies, and from her voice lines and even some of her pins, we're actually led to believe that the fire extinguisher isn't actually on her arm, but is her arm.
This arm means harm. I might be armless, but I'm in no way harmless. Stand back!
I'll show you the rest of her voice lines at the end of the video. Maisie's main attack is Pressure Rocket. She fires a cloud from her extinguisher that has so much pressure behind it that it acts like a rocket. It starts out moving very slowly, but the further it travels, the faster it goes. Even though its speed changes a lot, the damage stays the same no matter how close or how far away the target is. Maisie's super is Shockwave. She creates a huge blast that sends a shockwave around her that deals damage to everything it touches and knocks them back. Since the shockwave comes from her, all enemies will be pushed away from her in all directions. Her super does go through walls, so everything within its radius will get hit and all of its damage is dealt at the exact same time, similar to Jackie's main attack. However, there is a big delay between the time you actually let go of the super button and when the shockwave actually happens. Maisie can still move during this delay and will still be the center of the shockwave whenever it does actually go off. And this means that whatever the reticle actually shows when you let go of the super button might not actually be where it lands just because of this delay. It'll take some good timing and a little bit of help for you guys to memorize the size of the super radius after it disappears, but it's pretty cool. Maisie's first gadget is Disengage. When Maisie activates this gadget, she dashes a short distance in the opposite direction that she's facing. Additionally, any enemy that is near when the gadget goes off will be stunned for half a second. This gadget is going to make it very hard for assassins to stay close to her, and I should probably also mention that even though she technically leaves the ground while dashing, she's still totally vulnerable and can't use it to hop over walls or water or anything like that. Maisie's second gadget is Finish Them. This gadget instantly reloads one of Maisie's ammo, and her next shot will deal extra damage that depends on how much health the target is missing. So take however much health the target has lost, take 30% of that number and add it to the damage that Maisie's attack normally does. For example, if an El Primo has 9,000 total health and he's down to 3,000 health, he's missing 6,000 health, so you would deal an additional 1,800 damage to Maisie's next attack. You'll see this gadget do some really crazy damage in certain situations, and for anyone wondering if this works in the high safe, it doesn't. That would be totally broken if it did. Now Maisie's first star power is Pinpoint Precision. This star power adds 10% damage boost to Maisie's attack if the attack hits the target at max range. I tested to see if her second gadget would get a 10% damage boost to its total damage if it hit at max range, and it does not. Now the damage from the star power is applied to her regular damage, and then the gadget damage is added on top of that. You're gonna find out soon why I had to check that. That being said, this star power will apply to any kind of damage boost that stay with her, like Ruff's power up or 8-bit super or even a damage gear. Maisie's second star power is Tremors. While this star power is equipped, everything that is hit by Maisie's super will get slowed down for 2 seconds. Now we don't know exactly how much slower they become after that, but they are very slow for those 2 seconds. And just for reference, Buster's second gadget and BB's second gadget also slow enemies for 2 seconds, so they're very strong slows. Now that we know a little bit about Maisie's mechanics, it is time to put her abilities to the test. The Olympics test, and we're gonna start off with her worst and work our way up to her best like we always do. Her best one really might shock you. First up is the auto aim test. The projectile from Maisie's main attack starts out so slow that she can't even auto aim at Nita from 1 tile away. She literally has to be 0 tiles away in order for her to auto aim successfully. That makes her the only brawler in the game that can only auto aim from 0 tiles away and still deal damage. So that means that she gets 64th place total. Next we have the splash test. Maisie begins this test by damaging all of the boxes with her super, which can save her an ammo on every box. She can still only hit 1 box at a time, so it takes her 53.5 seconds to complete this test, which puts her in 58th place. Next is the super range test. Maisie's super has a radius of 4 1/3 tiles, but she can't throw it at all, so it's just the range that she gets. 4 1/3 tiles actually ties her with Tick and Jackie for 57th place. Next is the box test, and as we've seen, Maisie can only hit 1 box at a time, so this test takes quite a while. Once she collects a good number of power cubes, she uses all 3 of her gadgets to quickly get some extra shots in. Maisie finishes the box test in 1 minute and 53 seconds, which puts her in 53rd place. Next is the survival test. Maisie has 5,400 health and does not have any shield abilities, any healing abilities, or anything like that, so she only survives for 13.8 seconds, and that ties her with 6 other brawlers for 45th place. Next is the attack range test. Maisie's main attack stretches 8 1/3 tiles long, so she ties with Janet, Dynamite, Gale, and Max for 42nd place. Then we have the race test. Now Maisie has a normal movement speed like most of the brawlers, but she also has a gadget that she can use to dash, but in order to use it effectively for this test, she has to turn all the way around, so that's actually not that great. In total, she saves off 0.4 seconds of the normal time and finishes in 11.9 seconds and gets 40th place. We're not even halfway through the test, and the rest of them are tests that Maisie does better than half of the brawlers in. Next is the 3 attack kill test. Now, I did not let Maisie use her gadget in this test, since this test is a lot more about how many brawlers she can 3-shot, and the gadget's damage just varies too much. Her first star power adds an extra 576 damage in total, and she deals 6,336 damage with 3 attacks. That's enough to take out 52 of the 68 brawlers in the game, and that puts Maisie in 33rd place. Next is the super damage test. She does 1,860 damage with her super, and that puts her in 31st place for this test out of the 68 brawlers in the game. Next is the reload test. Now, I don't allow brawlers to use gadgets for this test. She's able to reload 10 shots in 18.2 seconds, so she ties with Shelly for 26th place, which is a pretty fast reload speed. Next, we have the boss test, and Maisie starts at max distance to get extra damage from her star power, and she moves back and forth to hit the boss with her super while still getting max damage with each attack. Once the boss is a little over half health, it just becomes a matter of how fast she's able to fire all 3 of her gadgets. By the time she uses her 3rd gadget, the boss is missing enough health to take a huge chunk of health off, and Maisie defeats him in 34.2 seconds and gets 17th place. Next is the area test. Maisie's attack breaks 2 rows of 9 skulls, and her super breaks 85 skulls all the way around her, and even her gadget breaks 21 skulls, even though it doesn't actually deal damage. She breaks a total of 124 skulls, which puts her in 12th place. Next is the supercharge test, and she requires 3 hits with her main attack to charge her super, so she doesn't actually spend any time reloading, and her unload speed is actually pretty fast too. It only takes her 0.9 seconds to charge her super, so she ties with Leon and Surge for 7th fastest charging super in the game. Next is the 1 second DPS test, and this is where things start to get really crazy. I very quickly found out that Maisie's gadget works out on the boss. So when the boss is missing 99,780 health, Maisie's attack deals 31,854 damage. I was also able to hit the boss with her super before the attack, so that makes a total of 33,714 damage. Spike, who is now in 2nd place for this test, barely deals half of that in 1 second, so Maisie takes 1st place. Next is the assassin test, and this is even better because Maisie's able to hit the boss with 3 regular attacks, a super, and then use her gadget to instantly reload and deal absurd amounts of damage. She deals 38,971 damage in 3 seconds, which obviously puts her in 1st place. She also gets 1st place in the swarm test. Her super can hit the entire swarm and deals enough damage to take them all out at the same time, so she just has to wait for the delay between releasing her super and it actually happening. It takes her 0.4 seconds to defeat the swarm, so Maisie gets another 1st place even without her gadget. Maisie had some of the best test results that we've ever seen, but that doesn't always directly translate to like real players. So how strong do I think Maisie's actually going to be? For gem grab, I'm gonna go with B tier. She deals enough damage with her main attack and super that I do think she has good potential to be good at gem grab, but the only reason why I don't think she'll be one of the best is because her main attack is honestly really hard to land. As we saw, it's pretty much never a good idea to auto aim with her, and her projectile starts out so slow that it's actually easier to dodge than most projectiles, even though it does speed up pretty quickly. I think that she'll play well if you're really good, and I think she's actually a pretty good gem carrier because she's pretty much protected from assassins or like brawlers that jump on her and stuff like that because her super saves her. For Brawl Ball, I think she's going to be an A tier brawler. It's probably her better game mode because her super can create really easy shots if you just time it right. Her first gadget will also be really useful for forcing an enemy to drop the ball no matter how much health they have, so they'll always have a hard time walking the ball into the goal. And she's also able to charge her super very quickly because it only takes 3 shots. For Heist, one of her worst game modes. I'm going to go with a C tier because she doesn't really have good DPS, especially over long periods of time. Her main attack is actually pretty strong, but it can't pierce through targets, so it'll actually be very easy for enemies to body block and protect the safe. As for Bounty, I think A tier could work out pretty well. She has enough range to be pretty good for long range brawlers, but her super might make her even better than average because she's a great counter to assassins and other close range brawlers. There aren't really any brawlers that will be able to hard counter Maisie, so I'm going to put her in the A tier for Bounty. As for Hot Zone, I'm going with B tier, maybe even a little bit worse. Her super can pretty much cover the entire zone, so it might be good for pushing enemies out of the zone, but with her shots being so easy to dodge and actually pretty narrow, enemies really won't have to outrange her in order to win a match against her, as long as they can just avoid the shots and stay alive. I'm also putting her in B tier for knockout. She might struggle a bit in the early game since she'll get outranged by most of the top tier knockout brawlers, but her super and her first gadget are both great abilities that help her survive until the smoke can actually start pushing everyone closer in, and at that point I think it'll help out pretty well. For solo showdown, We're gonna go with A tier. Her second gadget makes her excellent for 1v1s no matter how big or small brawlers are or how many power cubes they have. And her super with her first gadget will make it almost impossible for any bush campers to sneak up on her, so I'm gonna put her in the A tier. So I do feel like the A tier is justified for her. And also I'm gonna go with the A tier in duo showdown. Her main attack can only hit one brawler at a time, but her super can hit multiple enemies, and it has enough range to where she can actually easily protect herself and her teammates from surprise attacks. Let me know how good you guys think Maisie's gonna be in the comment section below. We've only really been able to test her against bots, so maybe I'm underestimating her, maybe I'm overestimating her. Now I'm gonna show you all of Maisie's voice lines and pins.
Ready to face the flames. I'm gonna snuff you out. Stand back. Watch out. You better run. Shockwave. Smoking. Keep on fighting. At least I went down in a blaze of glory. Need a change of plan. I might be out, but I'm not done. I went up in smoke. What am I fighting for? No! No way! You are about to feel the heat. You want a show? I'll give you one. Holy smoke. Watch out. That's a fire hazard. Boom. That's how it's done. That was a blast. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Maisie to the rescue. This arm means harm. Ew, why are you foaming at the mouth? Now you see how it's done. Fortune favors the brave. I'm amazing. I've got your back. Let's stay calm, but think fast. I might be armless, but I'm in no way harmless. Armed and ready.